Evolution. Sports Talk Television live here nightly. On Bucs Report, it's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about on tonight's show. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Will you shut up and be quiet? Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the Evolution of Sports Talk Television here live nightly on Bucs Report. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And as we always start off the Sports Web, how do we do it? Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, winter is coming. We will have Mr. Evan Winter on, now a part of Bucs Report. That's right. Evan Winter is now a part of Bucs Report. We'll have him on in just a little bit. And then, of course, your phone calls, as always, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's your Advanced Auto Parts Sports Web edition for all your great auto parts needs. It's Advanced Auto Parts. Let's go out to the webheads really quick. Read some of these comments before we get started. Buddy says, hey, y'all. Mike Stover says, J.J. Watt going to Arizona was shocking. It was a shock, and it happened about 11 to 11:30 today. Breaking news came down from Watt's Twitter feed as he said he chose the Arizona Cardinals 2 years, $31 million, including $23 million guaranteed. What do you guys think? My first thought and point of emphasis was, what would be the effect of this on Shaq Barrett? Because we've heard Barrett talk in the offseason. We know the situation. We know that he had 19 and a half sacks last year. We know he only had 8 this year, but he had lots of pressures. And we heard his comments about breaking the bank. In your opinion, does this change things a little bit? And what I mean by that is Watt getting that $23 million guaranteed. Because if you stack his numbers up the last couple years, they're not comparable. They're not. Barrett has more sacks. Barrett is a younger player. We've heard rumors of $20 to $23 million. Does it inflate the market? A lot of people say, well, go ahead and franchise him. Not so sure if you can do that. And I'll tell you why. Isn't there a grievance out against the Bucs? Because the Bucs want to pay him as an outside linebacker. He wants to get paid as a DE, a defensive end. It's a $2 to $3 million difference, big time difference. It's the difference between paying $15 million and $17 million. That's a big difference. And then you look at the market right now, paying a guy like J.J. Watt, who's 32 years old, had his lowest sack output. And of course, we'll get into the numbers. Was he double teamed? Is he washed up? My question for you, Bucs fans, tonight, does this change the market value for Barrett? Do you think now the Bucs have to franchise him, or does this put them out of contention for him? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. I mean, $23 million for a 32-year-old guy, guaranteed. You got to think that a guy that's 27, 28 years old, and a Shaq Barrett is going to get more money than that, or just as much. Just saying. What do you guys think? 727-255-0391. Let's go out to Christopher Cole. Hey, what's up, guys? Well, no more J.J. Watt coming to Tampa. That was the talk, right? Watt was going to come to Tampa, take less money. Oh, no way. Not if the deal is he's going to get $15 to $16 million guaranteed. Absolutely not. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's go out to my professional handicapper, Mr. Harry the Greek. Harry, welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television.
The evolution of Sports Talk Television. How are you, Mr. Peter Blake?
I'm doing great, buddy. And the question for the night, and I definitely want you to ponder this because I was thinking about it today when the breaking news happened. Does the market now inflate for a Shaq Barrett because of this contract signed by J.J. Watt, in your opinion? And I know what people are going to say. Watt deserves it if the Arizona Cardinals are willing to pay it. I definitely understand it. Once again, we can get more into it. But does it inflate the value for a Shaq Barrett, in your opinion?
Well, as you and I have talked on numerous shows from before, even during the regular season, that it was going to be very difficult to re-sign Shaq Barrett. He's going to command a lot of money. He had a good season. Do I think they're going to overpay for him? No, I honestly don't, Peter, and I still hold my ground on it. I have a funny feeling that if they do try to franchise him, I believe it's going to end up costing them more money, and he'll have the decision on whether or not he actually plays. That's going to be the question. So only Tampa, God, and Shaq know exactly what's going to happen there. But do I think it's going to overinflate his value? Maybe a little bit, but I still think it'll be within reason. I still think they actually have a shot of retaining him as a player. Do
you understand the move by the Arizona Cardinals with going with Watt? I'm
going to interrupt you right now. No, I don't understand that. You just paid a guy with his lowest production sack total for the entire year. He hasn't been healthy in how long? I mean, let's think about this. What you're doing is you're bringing in a marquee player that they're hoping has something left in the tank with an up-and-coming team, but the likelihood of him finishing a 16-game full season is literally zero because he hasn't been able to do it.
Sure.
And he's going to put people in the stands. They had to bring in a marquee player on that defense to be able to do something. But I think they overpaid for him, and it's going to really set the precedence for a lot of defensive players that are going to be getting their contract signed. But I think Arizona did a very, very big mistake, by the way. $23 million guaranteed, Peter.
Guaranteed.
$23 million guaranteed.
Yes.
Are they out of their tree?
Well, look, they think that they can get over the top with the J.J. Watt. They're going to pair him with the Chandler Jones, according to Seth Walder from Twitter here. He says J.J. Watt was double-teamed as an edge rusher 30% of the time in 2020, the highest rate among qualifiers. So some people would say, well, look, now you got a healthy Chandler Jones on that other side. He takes the pressure. Arizona is definitely, trying to build something. You have Kyler Murray, you have his former teammate, and then DeAndre Hopkins. If Murray doesn't get hurt last year at the tail end of that season, the Cardinals are in the playoffs. They're an upcoming team. Watt is the final piece. You say no.
I absolutely say no. I think it was a very, very bad move on the Arizona Cardinals. I think they should have got him with a lot less money and definitely a lot less in guaranteed. I think they should have structured his contract pending and on him actually completing 16 games.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, he did that last year, but again, he had his lowest sack total. And look, he played for a garbage franchise in the Houston Texans, so maybe you give him a pass. But you're exactly right. I think he's seen his best days. And, just reading this article from CBSSports.com, according to Spotaratics, excuse me.
Spotaratics, yeah.
$19.7 million per season for Shaq Barrett. That is the average annual salary he could be looking at. Again, 27.5 sacks, 93 pressures, 38 hurries. Again, you would have to say the 28-year-old is worth more than a guy like a J.J. Watt. And if I'm an agent and I'm a sales guy at this point, and I'm going to be an agent for Shaq Barrett, I'm going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and saying, look, I get it. We won a Super Bowl. I was a big part of that in the postseason. And on top of it, I have better statistics than the J.J. Watt. I should be paid better or just as much as Watt. Is that fair?
That's very fair. He's not only just 3, he's almost 4 years younger.
Yes.
He's in the prime of his career. You cannot fault Tampa Bay fans. Please hear me out when I say this. You cannot fault this man if they don't sign him.
Yep.
Okay. It's time for him to get paid.
I agree.
It's plain and simple. They've already franchised him, if I'm not mistaken. You know, you can't ask a player to do that twice for selfish reasons, and you might not get what you're going to pay for because you're going to have a disgruntled player. Just think about it. When you go to work and you're unhappy, are you producing? No. Okay. But you know what? $18-19 million, that's a lot of money, man.
Sure it is.
I would play for that. But what happens if he gets hurt? He's got the rest of his future to think about. There has to be guaranteed monies on that.
Sure.
And I cannot blame Shaq Barrett if he has to move on from Tampa. However, I still think they will get a chance to get the deal done. I just think now you need to start focusing on what might happen to a Chris Godwin, because if they do have to allocate the funds to go over towards Shaq Barrett, there is absolutely no way they're going to be able to handle and keep and retain Chris Godwin, because then you still have Levante David to think about and a few other players on that team, including a kicker that they have to make sure that they retain. He's a very vital part to this team.
Absolutely.
Okay? He put up 1/3 of the points for total points for the year. It's extremely important to have a kicker.
I agree. Tell you what, Harry, hold on a minute. Let me go ahead and put you on hold really quick. We'll come right back to you. Curtis, we'll put you on hold. Let me go back to my professional handicapper, Mr. Harry the Greek, who has a great new show here on Bucs Report. The over-under on a Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock. Harry the Greek, of course, Tampa Bay, Ray Kennedy. I'm your host, Peter Blake, here live on the Sports Web on a Monday night. We're sitting at March 1st, and still your Tampa Bay Buccaneers are world champions. It's amazing. Every day you wake up, Bucs fans, you can tell somebody that the opposing teams, whether they're a Saints fan, a Chiefs fan, whatever else, tell them the Bucs are still world champions. And you look at Barrett during this playoff run, 4 sacks, 9 tackles, 8 quarterback hits. So definitely playing in that postseason was huge for him. He absolutely wants to get paid, and you kind of wonder how they're going to approach this situation. So with the Godwin stuff, if they have to give some money or they get basically priced out of the Barrett sweepstakes, I'm telling you right now, I could see this name as much as I know it would pain some people because he used to back him up. But Von Miller could be on the market, and I tell you why he could come to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First and foremost, he was hurt last year. He still has something left in the tank, but he isn't what he used to be. But he could flourish in this Todd Bowles' system. On top of it, he has legal trouble off the field, so he could come a lot cheaper than Barrett. What do you say about that?
Well, that's a great point, because you know what? You just stole my thunder, Peter. I hate you.
That's what I do, brother.
I was getting ready to talk about it. Anyway, with Von Miller, if his legal troubles aren't that bad, and it's not going to really cause him anything but maybe miss a game or two, let me tell you something. He doesn't have something in the tank. That guy's a pure, flat-out stud.
Yep.
He commands a double team every single time he's on the football field. He is as good, if not better, than Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
The end. And if you do get him, and if I had to choose between one or two of those players, I would take Von Miller over Shaq Barrett any day of the week.
Wow.
But don't be surprised when I say this now. Tampa may do what they call a sign and trade. Okay, especially if Von Miller is still going to become available. But I honestly think they're going to end up keeping Shaq Barrett. I think they're going to allocate the funds and do that. But you probably can say goodbye to Chris Godwin in regards to that. But talking about Von Miller look really good in a Buck uniform. Trust me.
Well, I think he definitely would. And again, that's if they lose Barrett. I'm not in favor of it. But who knows where the Bucs go Of course, all of it starts on March 17th. We'll see how this all plays out. Harry the Greek, my professional handicapper. Thanks a lot for coming on the Evolution, and we'll see you soon. All right, boss?
Hey, we'll talk to you on Wednesday. Can't wait.
All right, my favorite right there, my professional handicapper, Mr. 88% going up to 89, 90%. Let's go out to my other favorite webhead here. Let's go out to Curtis from Newport Richie. Welcome to the Evolution. And in your opinion, with this J.J. Watt contract, does it inflate Shaq's market value? Go.
First of all, Harry's still on here?
No, he's not there, man. He was on the phone. He was on. He's gone now. Yeah.
First of all, let's just say this. This isn't the first time Arizona overspent for somebody.
Well, I mean, look, and people are laughing at me today, but do we remember this? A lot of players go to Arizona to retire, a la an Emmitt Smith, a la an Edgerrin James. Now, Kurt Warner did pretty well with the Arizona Cardinals, but,
Kurt Warner
right.
was still
in his prime.
Listen, what people need to remember about Kurt Warner was an old man when he went to the Rams. But he was Tom Brady before Tom Brady. He was the old man in there playing and balling out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But here's the thing right here. This is what I want people to understand. Okay. For the Bucs fans out here.
Sure.
Sorry, Peter. I'm rolling a joint. I went to Truly. Sorry. Anyway.
Well, let me just say this right here.
But anyway.
Yes.
Bucs fans, let's remember the name Michael Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
What did we let Michael Bennett go for? Absolutely
nothing. For, I believe, $6.5 million.
Bennett left
right.
and went to Seattle.
Right.
And was effing balling.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And for years after Bennett left, we were searching for defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean defensive end. Excuse me.
You're absolutely right.
We don't want to go through that again.
No, I agree with that. But
I don't want to go through being the team that doesn't have any pressure on the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then when that happens, people going to be like, "Oh man, Carlton Davis and Murphy Bunting, they can't cover." You can only cover the wide receivers for so long.
Sure, you're exactly right.
If you don't have pressure in the front end.
Nope. It's all predicated on that pressure, and you watch that Bucs defensive line and how much, pressure they got on the quarterback. In the same word, also taking the pressure off of that back end, which stepped up. They did their thing, and the linebackers did their thing. But at the end of the day, you definitely have to have Shaq, and you have to have JPP. And if you don't have Shaq, and this contract itself has inflated the market, then you have to have a backup plan unless you decide that you want to pay him, and you may have to. Again, Spotter Raddick has $19.7 million. That's the going rate, the average annual salary per season. And, of course, we've already heard from Barrett that he wants to break the bank. And, look, his numbers, 27.5 sacks. If I'm his agent, I'm going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and saying, look, the Cardinals just paid a guy who had his lowest sack total, is 32 years old, $23 million guaranteed. I want as much or more than that. I'm younger, I'm more consistent, and I've been healthier the last couple years. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, but see, the only thing I have to say is I agree with everything you just said. The only thing about this whole J.J. Watt signing people are not understanding is they basically paid for a name. And I'm not saying that J.J. Watt can't still potentially be a great player, but his name is great for the things that he did.
Agree.
And just like Harry said, when has he been consistent? A full season out there being J.J. Watt, defensive tackle, that defensive player of the year, go out there and play 16 games and get you 22 sacks. He hasn't been that J.J. Watt at all.
It's been a while. It's been definitely a while. The age, the injuries. Again, he was healthy the full year, and you saw him apologizing to Deshaun Watson walking off the field. He did his part, but I have to go back to this statistic. In your opinion, does this play a part of it? And I know, a lot of people don't necessarily like statistics, but you kind of take this and be fair with it. J.J. Watt was double teamed as an edge rusher 30% of the time in 2020, the highest rate among qualifiers. I think if I'm Shaq Barrett's agent, I would say, you know what? My guy was double teamed too. And on top of it, JPP was only 60 to 70% healthy. So that's why I didn't necessarily put up the sack numbers. I mean, you can play this the way you want to. My question is, do you think this contract to Watt inflates the market to where the Bucs are basically priced out, or do you think they will eventually get this done?
Well, like I said, Harry, I called because Harry made a great point. Let me tell you something. It definitely does that because, see, I'm a realist and I watch football, and J.J. Watt does not make the Cardinals one piece away from winning a Super Bowl.
Okay. I agree with you on that.
They could be the best team in their division. They could be the second best team in their division. They could be the fourth best team in that division. That division is wide open. That's another thing people aren't looking at. You got the Rams, the Seahawks, even though we don't know what the hell is going to go on with Russell Wilson.
Right.
You got the 49ers, who were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Right.
That division is wide open.
Wide open and very competitive, and it gets tougher with Matt Stafford if he can stay healthy, and that's a big if. But if he can stay healthy, you give the Rams a competent quarterback.
Look at Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers when he's healthy in San Francisco.
Yep. Over 65% completion percentage passer with a winning record. The problem is he can't stay healthy, and then on top of it, the 49ers, with all the injuries they had defensively last year, just killed them. But they're going to get everybody back, and they're going to be back there. That's going to be a very tough division.
But
yeah,
here's it's not a prediction.
Okay.
And it's not this is a statement. And I'm not going to lie to you, though, Peter. I'm nervous.
Okay.
And what I'm nervous about is we've seen more crazy things happen in the last 12 months in the NFL than we have in a long
Yes,
time.
I agree with that. I agree. And it's definitely been here in Tampa. It's been across the league. The quarterback movement has been absolutely amazing. We would never think that franchise quarterbacks or number one picks are being traded just like pawns. I mean, Carson Wentz.
Come on, man. That would have been like Denver trading John Elway.
Right. And basically in his prime, or somewhat still has left in his tank. He still has a couple years left in his tank, and you trade him. That would have been like
Miami trading Dan Marino. Man, Dan Marino was going to die in Miami.
Right. The same thing we said about Tom Brady last year. We didn't think it was going to happen. The same thing we said about Cam Newton and all these guys that have moved around. Anything is possible, and we still could have movement. Definitely.
You ready for this?
Sure.
You ready for this? This might be a little prediction.
Okay.
I think Matt Ryan is out of there.
Well, I mean, I tell you right now, that cap hit is pretty huge. So whoever takes that on, and a lot of people were thinking San Francisco. I'm not sure about that cap hit, and I'm not sure who's going to trade for Matt Ryan. I think he sits there in Atlanta for at least 1 or 2 years to be a stopgap quarterback if they decide to draft a Zach Wilson or a Justin Fields. So,
you know what? I'm going to tell you something weird. Because you've been a Bucs fan for however long, Pete, and let me tell you something. That guy, Arthur Blank, scares me. Because Arthur Blank will take risk in Atlanta.
Well, we've seen that in the past.
I think he'll trade. I think he would try to trade for Deshaun Watson.
I don't know. I see him going to the Carolina Panthers. I see him. The more things I see.
I definitely see that, but I could see Arthur Blank trading Matt Ryan,
right,
and a couple first-round picks to Houston, and Matt Ryan would be a bridge quarterback in Houston for a couple of years.
I don't know. That's a big time cap hit, and I'm not sure. But if they're trading, if you're going to start with Deshaun Watson, for me, that conversation, like a lot of what was said about Russell Wilson with 3 first-round picks, if you're talking about a Deshaun Watson who's 24, 25 years old, I'm starting that conversation on with 3 first-round picks, period.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's absolutely
And I'm not sure if the Atlanta Falcons are willing to do that. I think,
But what I think they would be willing to do is trade some players for it, too.
Well, Julio Jones
that's just like the Russell Wilson thing.
Right.
If they traded him to Dallas, what are they going to trade? A couple first-round picks. They're going to have to give up somebody like DeMarcus Lawrence, who was a defensive end, has a big cap number because they got to replace Russell Wilson's cap number.
Right.
In Seattle. So, they're going to have to, the whole cap money is funny thing in the NFL, but,
I'm not doing it. I'm not, the defense was bad, but I'm just not doing that. I'm not doing that.
No,
I wouldn't do it.
Not.
I would not do it. So, Curtis, we got to run. Let me read these comments. Definitely call back again.
Do your thing, brother. I'll call you back later because I definitely have something else to talk about, man.
All right. Well, you got 2 or 3 calls in the night if you want to. Let me go ahead and give you that right there. Let me go ahead and fire those keys. All right. We got newest writer here, Evan Winter, joining Bucs Report. We'll have him on here in about 5 minutes. So I definitely want to read these comments, and then we'll get him on. Wrote some great articles today about the Chris Godwin situation, franchise tag, and why not to do it, and also possibly the Bucs need a backup quarterback. Yep, that's right. He's been off and running here on Bucs Report. Hey, what's up, guys? Well, no more J.J. Watt coming to Tampa talk. You're exactly right. Mike says Deshaun Watson to Tampa Bay for Josh Rosen. That's a troll, and that's what you get. UCAN says first. Bucs Report says LFG. UCAN Ben Israel. Breaking news. J.J. Watt just got injured moving his luggage. I kind of like that, so I'll find that. J.J. Watt has been consistent over the years. Barrett had 1 good year, but the last 2 years, you compare the production, I would say Barrett has been a lot better than Watt. Again, 2 years, but that's what we're talking about. Right? Arizona's paying for the body of work. They're paying for J.J. Watt, the defensive player of the year, 3-time defensive player of the year. Is he still that guy? The last 2 years, he hasn't been. $23 million, a lot of money. A lot of money. Not my money. You got the money, spend it. If you think you're a Super Bowl contender or you think he's going to get you over that playoff hump, do it. But wow, that's a lot of money. We have to keep Barrett, franchise him. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't. Hello, Go Bucs going for another championship. If they don't, someone will take him or them. Christopher Cole says Watt has been stealing money for the past few years. Is Barrett franchisable? Didn't we franchise tag him last year? He is. But the thing is, once again, he does have a grievance versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you guys remember? I don't think that's been resolved. And the whole conundrum, Leo Ward. That's right, Leo Haggerty. Show him some love. He wants to be paid as a defensive end. Why? Because of the Watt contract. Goodness gracious. 2 years, $31 million, 23 guaranteed. Of course you want to be paid as a defensive end. Bucs want to pay him as an outside linebacker. There's a $2 to $3 million difference with that franchise tag. So that's what it's all about. Always love family in here. I've got to show some love to my mother watching the best sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area, the Sports Web with Bucs Report. Say hi to her. Love her to death. A lot of people thought the same thing about Gronkowski, that he wouldn't finish out a whole season, and he did. Pay the man. David says, I would rather watch another team overpay him. That's certainly a possibility. They'll figure it out. Absolutely. They will. And we'll have it here live on Bucs Report. Barrett and David are top priorities, in my opinion. Charles Williamson says, go for the championship. David says, but isn't Von Miller in trouble with the law? Well, Antonio Brown was. How did that work out? I'm not saying the two situations, but it certainly seems like Brown has a lot more accusations and a lot more cases against him than Von Miller. Of course, we don't know the extent of it, right? I'm just saying, though, if he has trouble with the law, and he can get it resolved and he's not suspended for a long period of time, he may come cheap. We don't know. He's not guilty of anything yet. So Jeremiah says, hey, what's up, everyone? What's going on? UCAN Ben Israel. Von Miller is coming to Tampa. We got the good lawyers here, Morgan and Morgan. I'll give you that. Did we that billboard go up in New Orleans? I didn't hear anything about that. I heard something go Bears, and this is what you get for that. Godwin going bye-bye. That would be the fat finger troll himself, Mr. Roger Shue, who's about to lose barbecue, because I do believe he will be back in a Bucs uniform next year there, Roger Shue. So get that barbecue ready, my friend, okay? I think Chris Godwin got us to the Super Bowl more than Barrett did this year. We'll talk to Evan Winter about it. We'll see, in his opinion, what he thinks is going to happen. Have him look inside his crystal ball. We have people who can step up for Godwin if we have to. Good point. Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, Antonio Brown if he's re-signed. Godwin would have a messed up hand, produced all year long for us. Shaq Barrett really didn't show up into the playoffs. David says Godwin with a messed up hand. Harry says smoke him if you got him. Carl says Barrett played great all year long. You can't win the sack record every year. He was in the backfield all year long with pressure. Agree with that. David says, but we can't say this. We can say the same thing about Barrett when he has been consistent. He has only had one good year. Cornell says go Bucs. David says when Nelson was on the field, he was in the backfield too. We see without Vita Vea next to Shaq, he was above average pass rusher. That's not worth $18 million a year. Johnny Dean says Josh Rosen. Oh, man. There we go with the Josh Rosen stuff. Who cares? You do. You care about Arizona because you decided to take your time and comment on it. I love that. Who cares about the mock draft? I've seen fans tonight. You wasted your time looking at a mock draft that you didn't care about. Thanks a lot for the view. Thanks a lot for stopping by. We appreciate it. Of course you care. You tuned in. Let's see here. Johnny Dean says last season Watt has the equivalent stats to Barrett this year. Roger says Bucs 8-8 next year. That would be your record for the Chicago Bears there, jerk. Harry is mad at you for dissing our Bears. I assume that he's not. I'm dissing you, not the Bears. And Godwin is our best receiver. With that being said, let's go ahead and welcome him to the Bucs Report family. One of the great writers out there. I've appreciated his work for a long time, respected him. We've had him on this show on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, the Sports Web. Welcome to the Bucs Report family, Mr. Evan Winter. And you're off and running here. Tell me about this J.J. Watt contract. The question for the night, in your opinion, does this inflate the market for Shaq Barrett and make it more difficult for him to re-sign with this team, in your opinion? Welcome.
Hey, Peter, thanks for having me on. And yeah, I think you've got to think it at least gives you a starting point in terms of where Shaq Barrett's market is. Shaq Barrett led the league in pressures last year, was fourth, tied for fourth the year before, obviously led this league in sacks last year, had 8 this year. And I'm with you. I thought he had a good year, even though his sack numbers were down. I mean, who in the world expected him to replicate 19 and a half sacks this year anyway? But J.J. Watt's making $31 million over 2 years, so that's 15 and a half average. If he's doing that, even though he did have a good year, and say what you want about the Texans, as bad as they are, it could hold players back. But you got to think it absolutely sets, at least gives you a starting point with Shaq's market. And yeah, man, it's definitely going to have an effect. If Shaq gets paid less than $20 million a year in whatever deal he receives coming up, I will be highly, highly surprised.
Yeah, I would be surprised too. And if I'm Shaq's agent and you know, look, that would be a great job in itself. I'm going to Jason Light, Mike Greenberg, and Bruce Arians and saying, look, J.J. Watt has not been as good as I've been in the last 2 years. He's also older than me. He got 23 guaranteed. Don't I deserve at least that much or even a little bit more? And if he feels that way, do you feel like he prices himself out with the Bucs? Could he get that somewhere else, namely with the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets, or possibly somebody else that we're not talking about? I was surprised by this, but the New England Patriots are flush with a cap room. I mean, talk about that a little bit.
Tampa Bay can bring Shaq Barrett back. They can bring him and Chris Godwin back. But what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to go against the grain in terms of what they do contractually with their players. They don't like the dead money deals. They don't like pushing stuff and backloading years. But this year they're going to have to do that. They are in. I wrote about it on BucsReport.com today. They're not in position right now, as things stand, to use the franchise tag on anybody. They're not going to use it on Shaq. Go ahead and cancel him out. And that's because if they use it on Shaq Barrett again this year, the 120% rule applies, which means you've got to pay him 120% of what you paid him last year, which comes out to like $18.9 million, something like that. That would be so dumb to franchise him at that price because that money comes straight off the books for 2021. There's no way around that. You might as well give him a long-term deal, make the cap hit friendly in the first couple years, and then, like I said, backload that contract. But that's not what Tampa Bay does. And same thing with Chris Godwin. They're going to have to do as well because those dudes' markets are going to be absolutely unreal. Over the cap has Chris Godwin's annual average at 17.1 million. I believe Spot Rack has them at like 16.2. So you're going to have to pay these guys. And if you handicap yourself to where all this money comes straight off the top, then you're just backing yourself in a corner. It makes absolutely no sense. And you're going to watch your other free agents sign with other teams. Now, back to your original question, can he sign with one of these teams with a lot of money? Yeah, of course. I mean, you look at over the cap salary right now, their salary cap standings, and Patriots right now have the third most. Colts have the fourth most. Washington, but they're not going to sign. Their front's already good. And then you've even got teams like the Panthers and Chargers who look like they have some pieces in place. However, this is going to be these next 2 weeks are going to be super interesting. There's going to have to be a lot of moving parts in order for Tampa Bay to make all this work. Granted, though, at the end of the day, I am not a salary cap expert. There's a reason I'm sitting here in this room and not in a, whatever story mansion like Jason Light is, assuming he lives in one of those. But yeah, man, I mean, the Bucs are going to have to play this smart. They're going to have to play it carefully, and they're going to have to do it judiciously as well, because whatever they do, whatever the market dictates, it's obviously going to have a snowball effect. And like I said, if they're not careful, they could easily watch a lot of these main guys walk.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We're on with our newest writer here on Bucs Report, Mr. Evan Winter. Winter has come here on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web, brought to you by Advanced Auto Parts. For all your auto parts needs, it's Advanced Auto Parts. Talking about Barrett and Godwin, especially Godwin, I feel like he's going to be franchised because this gives you the opportunity to basically deal with that contract next year. The cap supposedly is at $182 million, but that could go up. I mean, is that how you're feeling? If they can't get a deal done, that you can't let a 24-year-old wide receiver walk out of that building for nothing, right?
I don't disagree, no. And he means so much more than just routes, targets, receptions. I mean, we all know what he does in terms of run blocking and all that other good stuff. However, I don't know if they're going to be able to. I just don't know. You look at some names like Will Golston and Cameron Brake, guys that shouldn't be candidates to be cut, but just in terms of the landscape could be cut. The trick with Tampa Bay right now is they only have 45 players on their roster. You cut those two guys, you're at 43. Then let's say you sign all 7 draft picks, which rarely happens. I mean, Tampa Bay didn't even sign 2 of them, Chappelle Russell and Raymond Kalai last year off their draft squad. But let's say you just go ahead and sign those 7 guys, you're at 50. Now you've still got to sign 3 more players. You cleared $12 million in cap room. Let's say we're cutting Golston and Brake. Let's say we're using over the caps number at 13.3. That's $25 million in cap. Your draft class is going to cost 6.7. So that leaves you 19 million. You tag Godwin, that drops you down to 3 million. And you still have 2 more players you have to sign, which one of them is going to be a backup quarterback because there's no backup quarterbacks right now on this roster. And then you've still got your other big name free agents to sign and key depth players like Rakeem Nunez-Roches, Aaron Stinney, Kevin Minter, so on, Ryan Smith, so on and so forth. So like I said, man, it's a lot of moving parts. And at the end of the day, yes, what it's going to boil down to, and nobody can predict this, at least nobody like you or I, or just, people who pay attention but aren't on the inside of things. The only thing that's going to save them is if the cap continues to increase, but even then it sounds like it's increasing marginally, not at a rate that's really going to make a difference. And B, if a lot of these guys either take pay cuts, you extend some guys and push money back, and see just guys take less money than what they really deserve. I mean, man, and then you've got the whole contract preferences for the Bucs, how they like to do their contracts. There are just so many moving parts, so many things have to work correctly and properly for these elite 8. That's what I call them, to come back, and even just 4 or 5 of the elite 8 to come back, depending on who you're talking about.
Going back to J.J. Watt, are you surprised that he got that much money, and did Arizona make a mistake? Because we've kind of seen this in the past with other veterans, although I think Watt has a little bit more left in his tank than Emmitt Smith or an Edgerrin James. So in your opinion, what do you think about the move in itself?
It's weird, man. Such a weird situation. I go back to the regular season. I think it was like week 15 or 16. J.J. Watt, there's literal video of this out there, and you can hear the audio and everything. J.J.'s walking off the field with Deshaun Watson, and he literally says to him, "Hey, man, I'm sorry we ruined one of your years. This shouldn't have been the year we wasted." And then he bounces like 2 months later. Like that makes okay, sorry, man, that we sucked. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try to make it better for myself. I'm not going to stick around and try to make up for this. And then the whole thing about him wanting to win, that's why he was let go from Houston anyways. And then you go to a team that arguably is a playoff caliber team. They just had a few mistakes last year that really held them back. But it doesn't make sense, man. You could have gone to Green Bay, taken, a pretty decent pay cut where you would have won some games. You could have gone to the Bills. You could have gone to even the Browns. The whole situation is weird. At the end of the day, I think it was, I can't remember who posted it. I think he's some guy for the Bills. I can't remember his name right off the top of his head, but he said he talked to a Texans insider, and the guy was saying, JJ is all about himself. He hurt us more than he helped us last year, which is weird because he played 91% of defensive snaps last year. But, said all these really negative things about JJ. But at the end of the day, they kind of make sense, and they're kind of true. I think back to the Hard Knocks season with the Texans when they had him in slow motion with his shirt off, knocking around the tackling drill or tackling dummies. Like, they've never really done that with any player before. And this whole move to Arizona just kind of feels like a brand move. It definitely came out of nowhere. So overall, man, just a weird situation. I hope it works out for him, but at the end of the day, the whole thing's just weird to me.
I mean, looking at the projection right now, going back to the statistics from last year, according to Seth Walder, J.J. Watt was double-teamed as an edge rusher 30% of the time in 2020, the highest rate among qualifiers. So do you feel like the Cardinals are looking at it from the standpoint of, well, look, we didn't have Chandler Jones. We're going to have Chandler Jones back. We've also most likely are going to have Hassan Reddick, who they really like. We're going to have those guys to take the pressure off of them. Could a Shaq Barrett say the same thing because JPP played only 60, 70% of the time? I was double teamed. Could both of those instances play in part of why those teams make those type of decisions or pay those players?
Yeah, for sure, man. And Arizona, a lot of people might not agree with me, and I don't necessarily blame you if you don't. But Arizona had a good defense last year. They're a top 10 in overall defensive DVOA. And, I mean, when you look at just the names they have on the defensive side of the ball, starting with Chandler Jones, Jordan Phillips, then you've got Hassan Reddick, if they're able to bring him back, J.J. Watt now, Budda Baker. Then you've got Byron Murphy, who's kind of up and coming. You've got Zach Allen for when he's healthy. He's pretty decent. You've got a pretty decent core there on defense. What's up?
Isaiah Simmons?
Yeah, Isaiah. Yeah, exactly. Isaiah Simmons. So, I mean, you've got to like what Arizona is doing on defense right now. And I don't know, man. He could really make a difference. He's obviously going to be that guy in the 3-4 that's more got his hand in the dirt. He'll stand up from time to time. But and then Patrick Peterson too. Can't believe I've left him out. But if everything clicks, it should work out. But I still think that Arizona overpaid at the end of the day.
Going back to the Barrett's conversation, could his agent or even Barrett say, you know what, because JPP was playing only 60 to 70% of the time, that's the reason why my production kind of fell by the wayside? Could he say that too?
He could, and you could also say the Vita Vea injury. But at the same time, then if I were the Bucs, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, I'd be like, well, if you're a great player and you demand top dollar, shouldn't you be able to overcome that stuff? I mean, that's just kind of how I would react to that. Either way, I would hate to be an agent or a GM. I mean, arguing, like debating. I mean, I can do it, but dude, it's just so much energy and so much time. Like, I would much rather not. So, yeah, I would hate to get in like those like little petty, ticky tack discussions like that, which I'm sure they happen all the time.
If you're Jason Light, you're Mike Greenberg, or even BA at this point, who is your priority? Is it a Chris Godwin at that franchise tag, or is it a Shaq Barrett? Who are you trying to single out and get done first and then worry about the rest?
And money's not an issue, or we're acting like the salary cap is still an issue?
Well, I guess, look, I guess you freed up some money because I'm thinking you're going to be able to redo a deal with Tom Brady, possibly JPP and Mike Evans. They're going to do some structuring. They have a plan, Evan. They didn't go into this thinking it was just a one-year deal. They're
100%.
trying to, maximize the opportunity of having Brady at quarterback. So let's say they do some restructuring and they free up about $40 or $50 million, and you have that money in hand. Who's the first call you're making to? Is it a Shaq Barrett or Chris Godwin?
It's Chris Godwin, man. Just what he's able to bring to the offense, like we just talked about, he means so much more than just what a receiver does on a daily basis. I feel like with the growth in the secondary that we saw during the playoffs, now you never want to judge anything off a small sample size, like 4 playoff games, even if it is the playoffs and those games are usually magnified a bit more. However, I feel like you feel really good, or not you in particular, but just, you in a general sense. I feel like you feel like this secondary is going to be very good in 2021. They're getting all the pieces back, except for like Ross Cockrell, your depth guys, a couple of your depth guys. But that's going to take a lot of heat off this front seven with a fully healthy Vita Vea. And Dominican Sue comes back, I think if Shaq doesn't come back, Sue does come back. A fully healthy JPP. Levante's back because, again, I feel if Shaq's gone, LVD and Sue come back, I feel like that's going to change the dynamic a lot for this defense, and it's going to allow both units to feed off of each other. So right now it would be Godwin. I would honestly put Sue ahead of Shaq. I know that sounds crazy, but when you look at why Tampa Bay's defense, especially their run defense, remained elite in run defense and then just competitive and normal defense, it was because of Ndamukong Suh. If he's not on this front seven and Vita Vea, let's say he's hurt. Let's say he gets hurt again because, he's been hurt 2 out of his first 3 seasons now. Yeah. Suh's the only guy who's going to demand a double team that's going to make that effective. Golson, you can double him all day, but he's not really going to win those. Suh still has a chance to win those. But I would put Shaq number 3, LVD 4, and then probably Gronk number 5. That'd be probably my top 5 of the Elite 8.
And then, possibility of signing Antonio Brown to a 1-year deal because you really don't think the interest out there, even though the way he performed with the Bucs, there's not going to be many teams. And then on top of it, Brown, just like Gronk, wants to play with Brady, right? That's a foregone conclusion.
Sounds like it. And you got to think about his court case coming up in December. And then honestly, man, don't get me wrong. AB did come alive towards the end of the year, but really outside that Atlanta game down in Atlanta, like I said, he made some plays here and there, but he wasn't, lighting the stat sheet up with 7 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, anything like that. So yeah, I think that teams are still going to be a bit wary on him. And honestly, that could be a huge component into whether or not Chris Godwin comes back, because honestly, man, if Tampa Bay next year trots out Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, and then let's say they draft somebody in the draft, or they sign a decent free agent. Kendrick Bourne is a guy that I'm kind of looking at here recently. And then they bring back Gronk and they find a way to keep OJ and Brait. Dude, that's really not a bad receiving core. It's not. Yeah. Yes, none of them can actually replace Godwin. But Mike Evans did have a career high 258 snaps in the slot last year. So they're using him more. Now, that could have also been done due to Godwin's health. However, I think there are enough options there to where they can not replace Godwin, but at least ease the pain in terms of his loss if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, you never want to see a 24-year-old wide receiver walk out the door for nothing because you've developed him and you've seen him progressively get better and better. And even BA talked about how much importance he is, not only with, being a pass catcher, but also a blocker in the slot and everything like that. But if it happens, are you good with Tyler Johnson? Do you feel like Johnson could step up or Brown could step up into that role and be just as good? Or could there be some type of drop off?
Oh yeah, no, there'll be a drop off. There will definitely be a drop off. But at the same time, and this is just kind of the culmination of this team, just what we saw over the last 4 to 8 weeks of the season, with the way this offensive line played towards the end of the year. I don't think you really need a ton of skill players. I mean, don't get me wrong, they always help and they always make things better. But if this offensive line can do for the entirety of the year, stay healthy and perform at the level it performed over the last 4 to 8 weeks of the season, then it doesn't really matter what your scheme is. It doesn't matter who you're throwing to, because you're, like Bruce Arians said, you're going to be able to do whatever the hell you want. And I think that could really play into their decisions. Like I said, obviously that's all speculation, but there are enough core components on this team to help ease the loss of some of these big guys to where Tampa Bay doesn't have to put themselves in the corner, so on and so forth. But honestly, man, at the end of the day, I think the best route is you ink Shaq and Chris to long-term deals, 4 to 5 years, give them a big ass signing bonus, like make that first year cap friendly, and still give them that big signing bonus to where they're making a ton of money in their first year. Like for Chris Godwin, you could give him a 4-year, $64 million deal. Make it a 20 million signing bonus, which would be $5 million spread out each year because they prorate it. Give him a $5 million base salary in 2021. That way he's making $25 million in year one. He's got a $16 million yearly average, but his cap hit in year one is only $10 million. So you're saving $6 million right off the franchise tag right there, and you're locking your dude up for the next 4 years. Now, later on down the road, who knows where Brady's going to be at? You might have a rookie quarterback contract you're playing with that will allow you to keep Godwin. So just there's different ways they can do it, and they're gonna, if they want to keep the majority of these guys, or at least 5 of the 8, whatever Bruce Arians said, then they're gonna have to do some kind of long-term deal. They're gonna have to go against the grain. But like I said, I'm not a cap expert. That's just me crunching the numbers based off what I've seen.
And that's okay. We can speculate. We can try to crunch numbers. Hey, I'm not a cap guy either. In fact, I would pay everybody. But of course, that's the reason why sometimes I have some budgeting problems. And we're here at Evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with our newest writer, Mr. Evan Winter, here joining the Bucs Report family. Let's talk about it. If they lose Shaq, Brady Quinn on Sirius XM radio mentioned a Von Miller. Now, the reason why you would go out and get a Von Miller is first, maybe he wants to earn another championship. He also wants to play with Tom Brady. He likes Todd Bowles' system. He thinks he can be invigorated on top of it, even though he has law problems. We saw some of that stuff blown over. And because he missed last year, he could come much cheaper than a Shaq Barrett. In your opinion, could that be a possibility for this Bucs team?
Nothing is impossible. Hate to get all Disney on everybody, but nothing's impossible. But just going back to JJ Watt, if he's making 15.5 a year, there's no way Von Miller's getting less than 12 or 13. Now, granted, when you compare that to Shaq, that's probably going to be saving some money at the end of the day, depends on the type of deal he gets. But at the end of the day, I'd probably say no. A guy that I'm kind of looking at is Romeo Okwara of the Detroit Lions. He played a position very similar to JPP before JPP came to Tampa. He was a left end outside, like a Leo, or a right end outside, kind of your wide 9 tech, stuff like that. And we saw how JPP converted pretty well, I would say, to stand-up rusher. He could do the same. Spot Track has him valued right now at around $10 million a year. And then there's also some not so big names, not guys I would really rely to start. But if you have an Anthony Nelson in there that continues to improve, you could rotate this guy in and out with Anthony Nelson. But Kyler Fackrell, he had 10 sacks with Green Bay just 2 or 3 seasons ago in a reserve role where he stepped up. I think it was after one of their top edge rushers went down, and he played well. Did okay for the Giants last year. I mean, there are options out there, but if we're looking at somebody who I really think Tampa Bay could possibly bring in case Shaq walks, Romeo Cora, man. I mean, I like what he can do. That's somebody I'm kind of keeping an eye on.
What about the draft situation? Even though they're picking at 32, could you see them possibly going in that direction? Even a Melvin Ingram, he comes to mind. He necessarily hasn't been, very consistent with the health issue, but highly touted guy coming with the Chargers, somewhat productive. Again, injured. Is that a guy that you may be able to get cheap if you lose a Shaq, or the draft scenario where you could possibly move up out of that 32 spot, maybe do some, because again, this is not about your future at the end of the day. Jason Light and Bruce Arians can say, we don't want to ruin the future, but at the end of the day, this is right now, this is your future.
Yeah.
You're going to try to win a number 2 championship. So could they do something along those lines?
Yeah, I could definitely see him bringing in Melvin, and I'm actually going to write this on Bucs Report probably tomorrow. I'll try to have it done. I'm going to ask, should Tampa Bay trade up in the draft? And I know that sounds a little backward, a little counterintuitive based off of everything I just said in terms of the monies. They're going to need those cheap rookie contracts. They're going to need as many as they can get. But without the combine, without a proper evaluation system, or whatever, for lack of a better phrase that I just used, do you maybe want to think about trading up to get some of that guaranteed talent, especially if you think you're going to be taking an interior defensive lineman or an edge rusher in this draft? Because after the first 2 or 3 guys, talent kind of drops off pretty steep, at least from what I've read and just the research I've done. So it might be worth it for them to trade up. I don't know. But it's definitely going to be something interesting to see. You could get, hopefully, a Jalen Phillips falls to you, which I don't think that's going to happen, or maybe even a Greg Russo. I like Joe Tyron out of Washington, and I really like Davian Nixon. If Ndamukong Suh doesn't come back, I think Davian Nixon would be the perfect replacement for him. You can definitely find the guys in the draft, and I wouldn't count on them to have a Tristan Wirfs type impact. But I also think it's something to possibly contemplate moving up in this year's draft.
I just saw Johnny Dean say, when's the last time the Bucs drafted an edge rusher? It doesn't mean because you're not successful in the past that you can't do it, especially if you have to do it. And again, I'm not saying that Shaq Barrett is going to leave. I'm just saying you have to be ready for something along those lines. Yep. And even so, you look at JPP's age, coming off of surgery, again, playing 60 to 70%. He's still a gamer. He's still getting it done. He still led the team in sacks, but you got to feel like eventually this guy is going to lose a step. So you got to be prepared for it, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And he's entering a contract year. And going back to what I was just saying about the draft, Tampa Bay is not going to solve its defensive line and outside linebacker issues just in this draft alone. And another way they could open up cap space is by extending Ryan Jensen and Donovan Smith. If they do that, then, I mean, they could also extend Alex Kappa, but it's not going to make a difference in his first-year salary because he's making so little right now. But if you do that, not only are you taking some of the cap hit off of this year, but you're also directing your focus on these areas, your defensive line, your linebacker, possibly cornerback next year because Jordan Whitehead and Carlton Davis are going into contract years as well. It keeps your offensive line intact for just that much more longer and allows you to focus everywhere else because Tampa Bay is not going to be able to figure out all their issues just in this draft. There's no way, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Now, let's go to the backup quarterback, and then I'll get you out of here. Again, our newest writer joining the Bucs Report family, Mr. Evan Winter, has been doing this for a long time, covering for Bucs Nation and other Bucs outlets, does a hell of a job. And again, we're glad to have him a part of the Bucs Report family. Backup quarterback, Jason Light came out about a month ago and said that Blaine Gabbert could be the Tom Brady successor. And a lot of people kind of shook their head and said, no way. Talk about this backup quarterback situation. A lot of people say don't worry about it. But again, you have to worry about it because once again, Tom Brady, he may be able to play until, over 45, but he's not going to play forever.
Yeah, and even with the offensive line being as great as it was, all it takes is one bad hit. I mean, look at 2008, whenever Bernard Pollard ran into his knee. in the first game of the season. That's all it took. They've got to find somebody, and they've got to be smart about it. Blaine Gabbert, yes, he looked good against Detroit. He obviously didn't play at all in 2019. But if he's trotting out on that field, I don't feel good. Now, you can make that argument for just about any backup. But with the Tom Brady effect coming off of a Super Bowl, you might want to try your hand at some different options this year. And there are a lot of decent names on the market. I mean, one guy we're all familiar with, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, does he have the arm? And this kind of sounds like Brady without it being Brady coming in last year. Does he have the arm to really kind of execute this offense? I don't know. But you've also got guys like Andy Dalton, Kyle Allen. You've got Jacoby Brissett, who's somewhat decent. Now, he might want a lot of money considering he was making like $15 million a year over the last 2 years. But if that's okay, if the money's okay with him, that's an option. I mean, you've got all kinds of options out there. At the end of the day, it makes sense, though, that it'll be Gabbert. He knows the system. But at the same time, should we be allowing a backup to really have that much of a leg up when it comes to being a backup and knowing the system? I mean, who's to say that a cerebral guy like a Dalton or Fitzpatrick can't sit behind Brady and have a decent grasp of this offense by week 9 or week 10? I don't know. Who knows? But either way, yeah, they got to figure something out because right now Tom Brady is the only quarterback on this roster. And that's definitely going to change. They've got to be smart about how they do it, though. I'd have to check Gabbert's accrued seasons, but most likely he'd cost around $900,000 this year. Ryan Griffin would probably cost around the same. Actually, I thought he might cost less because I don't think he technically has accrued seasons, but I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. But either way, they got to figure something out and they got to be smart about it.
Could this be a year where they go and draft somebody?
It could. It very well could. I looked at a couple of mock drafts recently. They had Kyle Trask going in the 3rd round, Kellen Mond going in the 4th round. Those are talented kids. They've got an arm. They've shown that they can have success, especially in a tough conference like the SEC. It's certainly something to think about. And who knows? Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll draft your guy and you don't have to worry about a transition over the next 2 or 3 years or however long Brady decides to play.
Yeah, I know a lot of Florida Gator honks would love that, especially Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy would love to see Trask in a Buccaneer uniform. All right, we'll get you out of here on this. Go ahead and promote yourself here. Newest writer on Bucs Report, Mr. Evan Winter.
Yes, sir. Hey, man, so glad to be here and so glad to be a part of the family. I cannot wait to take this website to the levels that it deserves to be at and to the heights that it can soar. But, yeah, find me on BucsReport.com, at Twitter, at Evan_Winter. And then I'm working out a podcast deal right now with the Believe podcast family. It's going to be called Believe in Bucs. That should be broadcasting here in a couple of weeks once we get everything finalized. But for right now, find me for sure, BucsReport.com, and then at Evan_Winter on Twitter.
There you go, Mr. Evan Winter, newest writer here on Bucs Report. Thanks a lot for your time on the Advanced Auto Parts evolution of sports talk television, all right?
Thanks, Peter. We'll talk soon.
All right, there you go. Mr. Evan Winter on with us. Good stuff. I mean, the guy doesn't come in and say, hey, I'm going to take a day off. No, he's off and running. That's what we like here at Bucs Report. I continue to tell you we're only going to get bigger and better. We're all about that. We're all about giving you great Bucs content. Keep it right here on the Sports Web, live on Bucs Report. Again, open phone line. What do you have to say about what he had to say? 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Let's go back out to the webheads here, read some of these comments, and then we will go from there. Again, the big news today, my question for the night as we're an hour in, the J.J. Watt contract, 2 years, $31 million. Hello. $23 million guaranteed. Does that inflate the market for Shaq Barrett? Does Shaq Barrett get more money now? Are you worried because of that contract being signed by Watt to the Cardinals? 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Let's go out to Johnny Dean, the professor. Miller has been under investigation for months before the sheriff's department handed the case over to the state's attorney. If they haven't let anything leak, they probably means whatever charges he's facing are very serious. And again, that's my point. We don't know if he's innocent or guilty, but here's what we know. We know that he's 31 years old. He may not necessarily be in the prime of his career. It may be cheap. It may be cheaper because of the trouble off the field. Just saying, plan B. That's what I do here. I don't want to upset you guys, but that's what I do. I speculate. I push your buttons. It's okay if you get mad. It's Monday. I think we're all mad to get up this morning after that great weekend because our Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions. And we want a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be happy, sad. I don't know, not depressed. No crickets. I don't want that. That's what we do here. So if you're saying we're not going to talk about backup quarterbacks, we are. We're not going to talk about other teams, we are. You know why? Because they affect the Bucs situation. I will talk about the New York Jets if the situation applies to the Bucs, because they have a lot of money. And they could be in on that Chris Godwin sweepstakes. They could be in on that Shaq Barrett sweepstakes. Make no mistake about it. Those guys are going to get paid. Now, the Bucs have been very creative with it. They were creative last year. Nobody thought they were going to sign all these players. They did. They got them underneath the cap. Really, how many players did you lose? Let's go out to Todd here. Todd, welcome to the Evolution here, the Advanced Auto Parts Sports Web.
How you doing, Peter?
Doing good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Hey, listen, I listened to Evan Walker. He made some he made some great points.
Didn't he? Evan Winter, though, not Evan Walker. That's
I'm
okay.
Sorry, Evan
it's all right,
Winter.
Todd.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, Evan, but
Winter's coming here. Winter has come to Bucs Report.
Yeah, well, he's going to be awesome addition.
Oh, he already is. Absolutely he is. Yeah.
He knows his stuff. He's got great mind, great info. I want to say something about if we lose Barrett.
Okay.
And if Von Miller gets out of this trouble or whatever trouble he's in, he handles it and takes care of it, and we can get Von Miller for cheaper than what Shaq Barrett is going to be wanting.
Correct.
It would save us cap money for our other guys. We cannot let Levante David go to another team. He's got to be a Buck for life.
Well, look, and that will be the situation the Bucs definitely have to tackle. I mean, 31 years old. Has he seen his best days? Look, still over 100 tackles. Definitely an important part of this defense. I think also he's responsible for the development of a Devin White. You want to keep both of those linebackers intact. I will say this, the thing that you kind of worry about is a bad team overpaying for him, not only because of what Watt got paid, and I don't think it's going to be the same. I think he could get some offers there. Of course, the Cleveland Browns, that was the story, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, being interested in him. And why wouldn't they be? For his leadership, and he still has something left in the tank. So you're exactly right. I know there's a lot of Bucs fans right now that are kind of worried about Barrett and Godwin, and especially a Levante David. But yeah, they're not going to overpay for him. That's for sure. They're not going to.
Well, I agree with you, Peter. I do think we will tag Godwin. I don't think we let him go anywhere. 24 years old.
I agree.
One of the best receivers in the NFL, along with Mike Evans. They're two of the top receivers in the NFL.
Sure.
And I'll argue with anybody on that. I also think that Gronk and Brown will be back because of Tom Brady. I think we need to sign Suckup. What a great year he had as a kicker. We haven't had a kicker like that since Grammatica.
I agree with that. 90% field goal percentage. I mean, he's just as important as any of those guys. And I know people are going to laugh like it's a kicker, but Bucs fans, how many times have we seen kickers cost the Bucs games, especially in those close ones, which the Bucs had a couple of those last year.
Yeah, Peter, I've been to those games.
I think we all have.
I was at the game when Matt Gay missed. We had a chance to win against the Giants, and he missed the kick.
Oh,
I mean, it was horrible.
Of course it
Horrible.
was. It feels horrible.
But Ryan Suckup came in. He did a great job. When we didn't score in the red zone down there, Suckup came in and kicked 3 points. I mean, and he was almost automatic. So definitely think we need to sign that guy. Am I missing anybody? I probably am. But,
well, you have Gronk, you have Antonio Brown, you have Sue, of course, you have David. Again, it's the Elite Eight, and you have Leonard Fournette. You know, Lombardi, Lenny, is he going to sign? I mean, to me, I think he's more than likely out of here because simply he wants to be the bell cow runner, and I'm not sure the Bucs are ready to let him be the bell cow runner. You have Ronald Jones here, you have Keyshawn Vaughn, and if he goes out there into the market, you know, the going rate is what, $5 to $8 million. I'm just not sure if they're going to go ahead and do that. So I could see him leaving.
Yeah, I think Fournette will be gone. I hope Sue will come back. Sue, I tell you, the 2 years he's played for us, he's played outstanding. And when you got him and Vita Vea in the middle there, that's why we're number one in the rush defense.
Agree. I absolutely agree. And we saw how much of an impact Vita Vea was coming back. How much of an impact he was on those edge rushers on the outside. So what is it, the chicken or the egg? Not taking it away from JPP or Shaq, but this defensive line is totally different when Avea is in there, right?
Well, absolutely. And I saw a comment a while ago on one of your guys say that, you know, Shaq Barrett was not getting as many sacks when Vea was out. And I mean, they're right. Now, did Barrett step up for the playoffs and play outstanding? Absolutely.
Big
I'm not taking anything away from Shaq Barrett.
Sure.
But when Vita Vea is there, it opens it up for Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. So anyway, I'm just thinking if we do lose Barrett, there's options out there. What about Hassan Reddick, who played with Bruce Arians? I think that was Bruce Arians' last.
I believe you're right, but
he drafted him.
Right.
He knows Arians. He knows the system. So why not maybe take a chance on him if Arizona don't tag him?
It's certainly a possibility, but it seems like they've kind of dug in deep with that situation. They want to keep him around, but you don't know now with all the money they're paying to JJ Watt. So we'll see how it works out. But let's hope that Barrett can definitely get signed. But I think so. In your opinion, with this move by JJ Watt, you're a little bit worried that the market could be inflated now for a Barrett, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, Arizona overpaid JJ Watt.
Right.
JJ Watt's he's still good, but he's way past his prime. They overpaid him. I mean, $23 million guaranteed. Come on. I mean, he's good. But he's past his prime.
I agree. He's past his prime, and he had his lowest sack output last year. And you're still paying. You're basically paying the guy on the hope and the potential. And sometimes you can do that, but in this situation, look, Arizona has nothing to lose at this point. They're trying to go for it. They feel like that he's going to make that defense a lot better and give them an opportunity to rush those quarterbacks in that division. And you look at overall that division, you still have a Russell Wilson, you still have a Matt Stafford, you still have a Jimmy Garoppolo. And we know from the blueprint of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you can rush the passer and you can harass them, you can definitely shut down a potent offense, right?
Absolutely. And that's not an easy division. That's a tough division. San Francisco was in the Super Bowl the year before. And Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson.
I agree. He's still getting it done.
The Rams will be better with Stafford at the helm this year.
You would think. If he can stay healthy, you definitely would agree with that, especially with that defense. Good stuff, Todd. Anything else, buddy?
No, sir. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing well, Peter. Take care. And I hope to talk to you soon, brother.
All right, let me go ahead and fire those cannons for you right there. And I will go ahead and give you a Ric Flair right there. All right, good stuff there, Todd. Thanks a lot for the call. Open phone line, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. So we read the Johnny Dean comment. I feel like they're all going to take a pay cut just to win another championship. I think that's what Jeremiah is saying. Absolutely. I think it's certainly possible. It may be much to do about nothing. We were talking about it last year, how once again, going back to last year, how many people were kind of worried. I think we all were, right? They didn't know who the quarterback was going to be. You heard Tom Brady rumors? No way. I mean, that was an usual thing for 2020. We heard that all the time, right? Bucs fans? No way. No way it's going to happen. And then you get Brady and you get Gronk and you get Fournette, and then you re-sign all your defensive players with the exception of a Carl Nassib, right? So I'll put faith. I have faith that this Bucs organization knows what they're doing. I have faith in Jason Light. I have faith in Mike Greenberg because, like I said, I'm not good with budgeting. I'm not. I like to buy things. I don't necessarily like to think about the consequences sometimes, and that's a problem. That's what the Bucs are thinking about. And I know they're trying to win now, but they're also thinking about not hindering the possibility of being in cap hell, because Bucs fans have felt that too. And you don't want to be there. So what do you think about J.J. Watt signing that contract tonight? Does it affect Shaq Barrett's contract? 727-255-0391 at 727-255-0391. It's going to be fun to see what happens this offseason. Agree. We'll have it here live on Bucs Report. I promise you, and on the sports web. J.J. Watt went to Vance Joseph's defense. And it's not Vance McDonough, Vance Joseph's defense. Same defense that got him his first defensive player of the year. Pair him with Jones, and that defense is going to be good. And what he's talking about is when Watt started his career, Vance Joseph was the secondary coach. So they're familiar with each other. And of course, a lot of people say, well, Joseph uses some of the same things that Wade Phillips uses. So he was comfortable with that. Yes, Chandler Jones. Yes, he may think that the Cardinals are going to be competitive, but at the end of the day, show me the money. $23 million guaranteed. I make no mistake about it. Now, will he be productive? We'll see. Because he had a bad year last year. He really did. All right, so let's see here. Dave, this is what makes me scared. This does not happen a lot to us. Most recently, Baker, I think you're saying Sean Merriman in 2006 got 17 sacks of the NFL. The following 6 seasons combined, he only got 18 and a half sacks. And Vic Beasley had 15 and a half sacks in 2016, led the NFL, and only had 18 sacks combined the next 4 years. Certainly possible, right? But you would think that Todd Bowles' defense is defensive friendly, right? Like the coaches are player coaches. This defense is definitely defensive friendly. They love the blitz. They love to go after it. They love to use their athleticism on the outside, some zone concepts sometimes, but it's defensive friendly, especially when you got a 340-pound hoss, as my uncle would say, and you got Sue in the middle, both of those hosses in the middle to take up those double and triple teams. It frees up the outside, and those guys suck in like a funnel, and the quarterback is doomed. Right? We saw that with Patrick Mahomes. So, David, then worry about the rest. I don't think that David is the biggest priority. I'm sorry to say. I get it, the longevity thing. He's been here since 2012, went to the losing seasons, won a Super Bowl. Don't think he's the number one priority. I think it's Chris Godwin and Shaq Barrett, especially Godwin. Look, again, I have love for Tyler Johnson and Antonio Brown and Scotty Miller, but why let a wide receiver walk out the door at 24 years old, who you develop, who you've admitted, unless it's going to hinder you from signing those other players? I mean, again, they have some decisions to make, and we'll see how that plays out. Let's see here. Check your phone. Just text you breaking news. I saw the breaking news. It wasn't Bucs related, and it really wasn't a big story there, buddy. It was about your Chicago Bears. So you can tell me or you can call me on air. You guys can all call me. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Hello, great show. Good night. Thank you. Christopher Cole says, could we keep Shaq and bring in Miller too? I don't know about that. I guess that anything is possible if Miller wants to come here. I mean, where do you put him? It's a good problem to have. You have depth situation, right? I guess that there's no team. I mean, look, you bring up something interesting, right? With Miller. I mean, if there's teams out there shying away from him because of his character issues and the Bucs feel like, you know what, we got Tom Brady. We're good in this locker room. We're okay to bring him on a 1-year deal. Certainly possible. You can never have enough good pass rushers, right? One gets hurt. JPP up there in age, even though he leads the team in sacks. Certainly a possibility. Absolutely. Depending on the money aspect. And look, if Von Miller's still in the Denver Broncos, but if there's a chance he becomes a cap casualty, much like a J.J. Watt, then yeah, I think there's going to be some teams out there ready for his services, even with the legal troubles. But the legal troubles are going to be something we have to watch for. Check your phone. I did. I'm on a live show, so call me with it if you want. I can see why teams get the Super Bowl hangover. I can't get over we're champs. Go Bucs. It's okay. It's okay to embrace. Also give me the woo right there. Woo! Right there. I love that woo. So, all right. Again, let's go out to Clack, Marcus Golden, Bud Dupree, Matt Juden. Yes, they're free agents out there, but those guys you're going to also have to pay as much or more than a Shaq Barrett. So why not just pay your own guy? And a lot of those guys are definitely going to be, it's going to be the first day. I mean, they're going to be gone. I mean, you have that period where they're talking to agents of other teams, and then most likely they get a deal and it's done. And the Bucs, again, have work to do. Johnny Dean, was it Adrian Claiborne? Not for this team. Alex Smith is a backup. He's available. Yeah, and I could see him ending up with the Chicago Bears just because he knows Matt Nagy's offense. I could see that. I could definitely see it. Could he be a backup with Tampa Bay? I guess it's a possibility. Trade back, if anything, to get more picks. I mean, that's what the New England Patriots do a lot, right? It doesn't necessarily always work out. Noah Smith and then Anthony Nelson a couple years. I think you're saying Noah Spence and Anthony Nelson. Spence had flashes of brilliance, if you will. I think he had 6.5 sacks, and then once he hurt his shoulder, he was basically done. Anthony Nelson, he showed something to me. I was a little bit disappointed with the numbers during the season. I thought he would have more of an impact. He didn't necessarily have that. He had the pressures, didn't necessarily have the numbers, but you saw in the postseason, especially in the Super Bowl, that he did have some hurries there, and he got to the quarterback. So that's impressive with him. So that may be a guy that you look forward to in the future. How can you go wrong with Fitzmagic? He was killing it with the Dolphins. Well, if he was killing it with the Dolphins, why do you think he wants to be a backup for the Bucs, especially with Tom Brady here? I mean, don't you think that maybe, again, the Chicago Bears, those teams that are looking for a backup quarterback, or even a guy that you can go in there and start? Fitzmagic played well to start for any team in the NFL if they want to start him. I think he is what he is. Okay, I think he's a backup quarterback who's very inconsistent, but lately he's played very well. So why would you think he would want to be a backup quarterback when there's a team out there that could actually offer him an opportunity to be a starter? So that's what you also have to take into account. To your point, David Moser Clay was good, but great. How many, if they used him as a priority, but no, all the Bucs' great edge rushers except Leroy Selman were free agents. Good point. Simeon Rice comes to mind. Again, Shaq Barrett being a free agent, JPP, and the trade. It's a good point. Yes, I do agree. Let me go out to Cats 2012, North Carolina. It's an interesting name. I missed the season already. JJ was overpaid. He has been average the past few years. Will Brady sign an extension? Our own Joshua Cole Allen says so. I mean, it's been, look, Jason Light was talking about it last week. He doesn't like to go into it, going on various shows, but you would think that, Tom Brady being the consummate professional that he is throughout his career, that he would definitely do a reworking, a restructure, and also an extension. Right? I mean, this guy's not slowing down. 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Wants to play after he's 45. If he can protect him on the offensive line, which the Bucs were able to do, why not? I find it amazing that some Bucs fans are ready to look to the future next year. I get drafting a quarterback and developing, but having him bring him in and just like kick out the greatest of all time after 40 touchdown season? Has there ever been a quarterback that threw for 40 touchdowns in Bucs history besides Brady? No. So why do Bucs fans want to kick him out? Let it marinate a little bit. Cooking term, I guess. Let's see how it works out next year. Let's see if they can go for that too. Could they draft a quarterback? Certainly. But, stop thinking that, you got to kick Brady out the door. You got to bring in another quarterback or something like that. You got the greatest of all time. There's a reason why there's free agents that want to come here and still play. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. So, yes, I do think he'll sign an extension. I think he'll restructure. I think he'll do everything in his power to get back as many players on this team because he knows how important it is, especially offensively. That's why I don't necessarily buy Chris Godwin going somewhere else. Does that make sense to you? A quarterback that leaves the New England Patriots, why? Because they don't have any weapons around. Okay, I come to Tampa Bay, I play with all the weapons, I win a Super Bowl. Not saying again, Tyler Johnson, Antonio Brown, Scotty Miller, but Chris Godwin, you're going to get rid of one of my biggest weapons? And Chris Godwin, does that make sense to you? Not to me. So, yeah, I think he's going to do everything in his power to restructure to get a Chris Godwin sign and get a Gronkowski, who most likely is going to sign anyway because he won't play with another quarterback besides a Brady. We know about Antonio Brown, the legal troubles. Do you think there's another team out there that's going to touch him? I don't think so. So right there, your three offensive weapons. You have Cameron Braid, who's still in the books. You have O.J. Howard coming off the injury. We know before the injury how dominant he was. So it's not like you have weapons. But again, going back to it, the whole point of Brady coming here was because you have the weapons and now you're going to get rid of one of his biggest ones? Nah, don't buy it. Nah. Sorry. I got oceanfront property in Arizona more than getting rid of weapons that Brady wants. All right, welcome to Tampa, Von Miller. We'll see. We didn't sign Miller, did we? No, that didn't happen. Not at all. Roger Shue, hit the like button. Show Pete some love. Absolutely. What day does free agency start? March 17th, is it not? March 17th? And we'll have it live here for you. We'll be covering it. We'll be seeing what's going on. I believe the tampering period is March 15th, is it not? I mean, I'm like you at this point, right? I'm so caught up in the Bucs being world champions that you're like, okay, what's next? Oh, you got the parade. Okay, cool. What's next? Oh, you got free agent. We got no combine. I mean, do you guys miss the combine? I miss the combine. I like going on NFL Network and watching guys run around and do drills and saying who's going to be there. What kind of impact do you think that's going to have on the draft process? Is it going to have any impact? I mean, the Bucs are picking 32. You still have to draft well, right? You can't fall asleep at the wheel. We know what happens when you have a Super Bowl hangover. You know the reason why teams have a Super Bowl hangover? You really want to know why? Bad drafting. Falling asleep at the wheel. Not getting players to replace the ones they lose. And the Bucs most likely are going to lose a couple players. That's where the drafting, the development, if you will, and the Johnny Dean, the professor, what he always talks about, developing guys. That's where the teams fall asleep. That's where the teams get complacent. Complacency is the ruination of a championship season the year before. I mean, we heard Bruce Arians talk about it. We haven't done. All right, let's go out to Johnny Dean. Johnny Dean, welcome to the Evolution.
How's it going, bud?
Going good, man. I'm pumped up. What about you?
I'm great, man. I'm great.
Good.
This year can go. This offseason can go any way it wants to go. I'm still going to be excited about it.
You're good. That's it. You're good. I feel like that's a whole fan base. We were all concerned about this and that. And again, it was a different set of circumstances, wasn't it? Because the Bucs didn't know who their quarterback was. So we were talking about Jameis Winston and why he should be here and why he shouldn't be here. And free agency possibly losing defensive guys and the world and the sky falling. And now what we're talking about is a team that basically needs to, they're going to go for a repeat. What guys are they going to lose? That's okay. We're good at that position. But like I was telling everybody out there, you can't necessarily have that attitude because if you do get complacent, you will get replaced by somebody.
Well, this team, I have so much faith in this coaching staff and Jason Light right now that if they decide to, the only one that would really hurt my feelings if they let walk is Levante, because that's our guy, that's our homeboy. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's a possibility?
Anybody else to me is expendable. I really don't. I think they're going to keep him. I think he's the type of guy who's going to take a team friendly deal.
Team friendly hometown discount. Okay.
Yeah, he got his $50 million 26 guaranteed extension the last time he went up. He can do it. He can take an extension, and playing with the team he's got around him right now is the best defensive team he's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a question. What is with the Von Miller talk, man? Do you realize how unworldly strange what is going on with Von Miller is?
Well, I don't know what to think about Von Miller. I mean, I think it's absolutely the weirdest situation at this point.
He was investigated for 5 months before, and nobody heard a word about it.
Mm-hmm.
That don't happen with superstars, man, unless it's a really secret, tight investigation. Okay, and then once it's turned over to the state's attorney, you still don't have any people, nothing.
Sure,
there's something that's I'm staying as far away from Von Miller as I can get.
That's it. You're done with it. You wouldn't consider Von Miller. You would treat him as if I treated
whatever, dude. If it was some little low life crime like misdemeanors or anything else, that crap would be all over the news. You haven't heard a peep.
Well, you're exactly right. You really haven't heard it. You really have not heard anything about it, and that's what you could be kind of concerned about. But in the same breath, if you're, the J.J. Watt situation, you look at this situation, how shocked were you that Watt got that contract, and do you think it inflates the market? Because, again, if I'm Barrett's agent, I'm going to the Bucs and saying, look, if this guy is getting paid $23 million and he's 32, don't I deserve at least as much or more with the last 2 years?
No, I don't think that inflates his situation whatsoever. Watt's getting paid for what hit 3 defensive MVPs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's getting paid for last year. Okay, last year Watt's stats were a little bit better than Barrett's. Okay,
mm-hmm.
and that's with, if you look at the situation there, Watt wasn't playing with JPP and Sue and those guys on his line. He had nobody.
That's a fair point. That's fair.
And he still put the same numbers up JPP. As the Shaq.
Mm-hmm.
So no, if that affects the situation at all, it's going to downplay a situation.
Okay. All right. So Levante David is the guy that you're kind of concerned about?
As far as my own personal Bucs fandom, yeah.
Okay.
As far as the other guys, our main figures, our foundation is solid.
I agree.
The parts on the board that can be adjusted. Well, I'd hate to lose JPP. He's kind of like the heart and soul of that line.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's going nowhere. I think he's already said he's a Tampa Bayer now.
Well, I don't think he's going anywhere either. But I think there may be a possibility, because he is a veteran, that he may want to free up some money by doing a restructure.
He needs one more Super Bowl ring to fill that hand.
You went there with that. I'm sorry, it's funny, but I gotta.
JPP, man, you gotta love.
I love him. He's playing at 60 to 70% last year, and still leads your team in sacks. That's amazing to me. And again, the Von Miller stuff, besides the law, we don't know what that is all about. But if he comes to you cheap, and the law situation is just some accusation, and we've seen this before. Who knows? It may be an accusation. I'm not downplaying it, but I'm saying if he could come to you cheap at 31 years old, even though he missed a season, we know that Miller could absolutely excel in this deep. Christopher Cole brings it up. Maybe you still sign a Shaq Barrett and you get Von Miller on the cheap deal for depth purposes, right? I mean, could that be a possibility?
You was just talking about JJ isn't the same player he was, and that's true, but he's still as good as most players out there today. But you talk about that, Von Miller, go look at his record for the last 2 years. He's declined drastically.
Hmm. Well, maybe you could say, I mean,
And
Bradley.
that's with Nick Chubb there, man.
Well, not Nick Chubb. That's the running back. It would be Bradley Chubb. I know you're talking about.
Chubb.
Yeah, Nick Chubb. Yeah, Nick Chubb runs the ball for the Cleveland Browns. Thank God for that, because he would get Baker Mayfield would be dead without that running back. But Bradley Chubb, of course, the Bucs missed out on him.
Right, yeah.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Bradley Chubb, though, was injured one of those years, was he not?
He was. I think he was healthy last year.
Yeah, I think you're right, but Von Miller wasn't. So he was hurt before the whole season started. So, and then of course he got COVID. It was just a bad year for Miller. It's been a bad year for Miller all around. So hopefully these accusations are nothing more than that. But it seems like, the law could be definitely stepping in. And if they are, then of course you stay away from them. But if not,
they investigated for 5 months and then turned it to the state's attorney's office.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what it is.
What that means is they've got enough evidence on him that they felt comfortable taking to the state's attorney's offices for charges.
Yeah.
So I'm not touching him. That's the freakiest situation I've seen in football, because you've had all kinds of accusations and stuff like this against players that get leaked out, but nothing like this. Usually when the police circle their wagons like that and are keeping it tight-lipped, that means there's a lot of people, a lot of moving pieces involved.
Yeah.
That they don't want leaked out to.
Agree. Absolutely agree. All right. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it, man.
All right, man. Let me go ahead and fire those cannons for you right there. Woo! There we go, Ric Flair. There we go. Thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate you. All right. Good stuff. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And that's what we're going to continue to talk about, free agency and what's going on. Do you buy any of these quarterback rumors? Not saying the Bucs, but around the league. A Russell Wilson, a Deshaun Watson. The more and more I think about it, the Carolina Panthers seem prime for Deshaun Watson. It makes sense to me. It makes lots of sense. It does. You get a quarterback for 10, 15 years. You have to give up a couple first-round draft picks. You give up a Teddy Bridgewater, possibly a Christian McCaffrey. But wouldn't you do it if you're the Carolina Panthers? Doesn't that make you somewhat competitive at that point? With a quarterback who's basically had Will Fuller and nothing else with the Texans, what could he do with the Carolina Panthers? And what kind of worries would the Bucs defense have? It would be somebody you have to account for. That's for sure. And the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. And we don't even know what's going on with the New Orleans Saints situation with Drew Brees. We have no idea. But keeping it Bucs related, there was a story from Mary Cabot, Cleveland, for the Cleveland Browns, who basically was saying that the Browns would absolutely be interested in Tampa Bay Buccaneer linebacker Levante David. Of course, David last year, 117 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. And Pro Football Focus has him as the number 8 free agent out of 200. So important still. Very, very important to this team. Of course, 31 years old. I mean, that's a big-time question. According to Spotratic, $12.7 million a year. That's the average. That's also according to Greg Allman of The Athletic. PFF predicts, and that would be Pro Football Focus again, will re-sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 3-year deal worth $40 million with $23.5 million in guaranteed. So any worries about the Cleveland Browns possibly overpaying? Because the Browns are in the playoffs. And playoffs. I said it.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
Yes.
You kidding me? Playoffs?
Well, that's what a lot of Browns fans were talking about, Jim. They weren't talking about, and they were in the playoff contention last year. Came this close. Got to cover Tyreek Hill on that. Lose Patrick Mahomes in that game. You have a chance to beat the Chiefs. Can't get it done with Chad Henne. They feel like they're definitely going to be in that playoff chase. Absolutely. Does that concern you with the Levante David possibly getting offers from a team like the Cleveland Browns? Do you feel like Johnny Dean has said he will take a hometown discount? Because I know there's a lot of fans out there that feel like David is a number one priority, but I hate to tell you, he's not. He's not. He's 31 years old. Highly productive linebacker. Still doesn't make Pro Bowls for some reason, because nobody on the Bucs made any Pro Bowls. Any concern there? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. All right, let's see here. Do you think Jamie Newman would be around 5th or 6th round to be developed? If not, what round you think? The variances there. I see him, going from 2nd to 5th round. I mean, he's a developmental guy. So you could definitely, there's a lot of potential there. Big time arm. Of course, I believe he transferred from Georgia to Wake Forest, did he not? So there's definitely some possibility 5th, 6th round. I mean, maybe they go in that direction. People are talking about Kyle Trask from the Florida Gators. I think that's a hometown pick. Not to say Trask hasn't performed in SEC competition. I don't know why everybody's kind of down on him. I get it. He had a bad bowl game. But when you're missing your 4 top wide receivers, how are you supposed to play? So he's got a big arm. Maybe he fits Bruce Arians. Maybe Jamie Newman would be a guy. I don't know if they draft a quarterback or not. We'll see. How did the Cardinals sign Watt when free agency hasn't even started? Because he got cut. That's why. So unrestricted. Send it to you before Peter. To me, Nelson is our victim of volume on defense, and I get it. You got Barrett on one side and JPP on the other. I like the victim of volume. That's absolutely funny. All right, let's see here. The only Super Bowl hangover Brady has ever had was after the boat parade. Yeah, that was pretty much a hangover, right? But of course, we've heard from Bruce Arians, had a knee surgery, won't be available until June. Any concern? I mean, doesn't that put it into perspective how well Brady played at 43 years old, even with an injury? And we don't even know the severity of it. The injury could be worse than we're thinking. He's not going to practice until June and still put up those numbers? Amazing. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. There's one thing I can 100% guarantee. No matter who leaves or who comes back, I will be sitting on the edge of my seat in September, excited to be a Bucs fan. I like it. It's simplistic. It's absolutely simplistic. I think there's a lot of, but there's still the concern out there. With the Watt contract, maybe that's over concern. Maybe that's overblowing it. Maybe I'm trying to push your buttons too much, but I'm telling you, you're looking at it from the standpoint of where does the market lie? And if that is the market, and of course, Shaq wants to be paid as a defensive end, the Bucs want to pay him as an outside linebacker. That's where you're looking at, right? And we already had the average figure, 19.7. So it's not like it's far off. It's not. 19.7 a year. You good with that, Bucs fans? We'll see if the Bucs are good with that. This is what makes me wonder if Von Miller was hurt this year, or did the team hold him out because of charges pending? Don't know. Don't know the inner workings of the Denver Broncos. If Julian Edelman gets cut by the Patriots, which seems probable, I think he could come here and help replace Godwin if he leaves. Been talked about. I think you're pretty good at the wide receiving position, right? But of course, that's always going to be talked about with Edelman and him being familiar with the Tom Brady, right? Going back to that word. That's the reason why Watt signed with the Cardinals, because of Vance Joseph, his old teammate in DeAndre Hopkins. So is it out of the realm of possibility? I will say this. Do we think that Edelman is in the prime of his career? I think he's seen his best. I mean, look, if you get a guy like an Edelman, then you're taking away snaps from a Tyler Johnson. You're taking away snaps from possibly a re-signed Antonio Brown. You're taking away snaps from a Scotty Miller. So you have to put all that into context. But I think veterans like that are going to be mentioned because of the Brady effect. You're going to have people mention Stephon Gilmore. I think you're good at that. I know you're good. I don't think you're good. You're good in that back end. I told you that in the offseason last year when a lot of Bucs fans wanted to go after veterans. And I said, no, you don't do that, because you take away from the development of a Carlton Davis, of a Jamel Dean, of a Sean Murphy Bunting. You don't want to do that. And I know for damn sure Stephon Gilmore doesn't want to be the 4th cornerback on this team. I mean, I guess it's possible. Anything is possible. That guy's a number 1 guy. Patriots are not just going to give him away. There's going to be a team out there that's willing to give up a first or a second round pick for a lockdown corner. And he truly is a lockdown corner. So going back to the veterans, I would not be surprised that some of these guys are mentioned. I just don't know how they work in the grand scheme of things with the Bucs. Breeze was seen pushing a sled in training like he's going to play next year. It's another big story. I don't know what you make of that situation. I mean, you hear that Drew Brees is going to retire. I mean, didn't he take a lesser contract? He's about lowering his deal down to $1 million. I thought I saw that from somewhere. Could he be coming back? I don't know. All we heard through the offseason and after the Saints game is that he was done. He was retired. We even saw him say, Jameis Winston, this is your team. That's what you kind of read those lips, right? Taysom Hill signed an extension. Jameis Winston could be the quarterback. You go with that double-headed monster. You have all this cap trouble with the New Orleans Saints. That's a snake in the grass. You cut its head off, and that head isn't cut off yet. So I don't know. I don't know at this point. I know what we saw last year. We saw a quarterback whose skills were deteriorating right before our eyes, right? Broken ribs, a quarterback that's not able to throw the ball down the field. So I don't care what he's doing with the sled, whatever he's doing, throwing drills, he's not the same guy. He's been exposed by the NFL. His resume speaks for itself. He's a Hall of Fame player. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. First ballot, period. Is he the same Drew Brees? No. And from what you hear from Adam Schefter last year, if he makes the decision to move on, they get Tom Brady. I don't know if I believe that, but there has to be some credence. So if I'm the Saints, I'm telling Drew Brees, even though you feel like he's earned his way to play anytime he wants to and quit anytime, if you feel like Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston are better options than a Brees, I go to Brees and say, nope, not this year. I don't know. It's a tough situation. I mean, here's a guy that's done so much for your franchise. So many wins during the regular season. Unfortunately, it hasn't translated to the offseason. To the postseason. Because consequently, they've been sent home to the offseason. So I don't know what to believe. I don't know how Mickey Loomis and that Saints organization addresses it. I don't know how you do it. I mean, tape doesn't lie, right? We saw it last year. Was that injuries? Yeah, but it's also father time. Okay? He's not as good as Tom Brady. He's not. Not putting up the numbers like Tom Brady. He's not able to throw the ball down the field. If your offense is predicated on pushing the ball down the field, you go with Jameis Winston because we know he can push the ball down the field. Now, the decision-making, totally different story. I don't know if he's overcoming or not. I don't. And people say, well, why are you talking about that? Because it relates to the Bucs. They're in the division. They're not dead. They're going to be competitive. It's going to be interesting because all you hear about the Saints is how they're in cap hell. You know, you hear this every year. It's like freaking Groundhog Day. Saints are in cap hell. Saints are in cap hell. Yet they still remain to be competitive and they still keep players around. So I'll believe it when I see it. This team is still going to be in that conversation. And if your whole point of emphasis of your offense is to push the ball down the field, then Jameis Winston should be your quarterback or somebody else. You got to move on. Especially if you believe that Brees is toast, which it looked like he was, right? I mean, I give credit to where credit is due. That Bucs defense did a hell of a job of putting pressure on him and squatting on those routes and being physical with those wide receivers. And then the defensive line came in and shut down Alvin Kamara. And he shut down your offense. I mean, they did it perfectly. But we saw throughout the year the decline of Drew Brees. So even if he comes back next year, he ain't the quarterback he used to be. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Wake Forest to Georgia and sat out. You're right. Correct. Thought it was the other way around. I thought it was to Georgia to Wake Forest. Okay. Who the hell goes to Wake Forest, by the way? That's still a school. I guess they're better than Florida State. I guess I have no room to talk because Trask looks good against bad teams, and against good teams, it looks like trash. Well, I think people, again, looking at the bowl game, that was disappointing the way he played. But again, not having 4 wide receivers. But, 1 year, couple years in that Florida offense, I don't know. I don't know what the evaluation on him is yet. How many concussions does Edelman have? Plenty. Again, I don't think he's the same player. I would rather have Humphreys than Edelman. That's been talked about, Bucs fans. Would Humphreys be a guy that you would go after? Makes me wonder how good Keyshawn Vaughn would have been this year if we didn't have McCoy. Well, in that same breath, it makes you wonder if Vaughn didn't fumble the ball, how many times the carries he would get. Because, look, BA is not going to put up with it. They're not going to put up with a guy that's going to fumble the ball, no matter if he's a third-round pick or not. I mean, we saw Shady McCoy not get many carries at all because of missed blocks and a drop catch or a touchdown. We saw him go to the doghouse there. And simply, they were comfortable with the victim of volume and a Ronald Jones and, of course, a Lombardi Lenny. I'm not going to call him playoff Lenny. Lombardi Lenny. He was tough. And Keyshawn will get his opportunities, and that may, factor in their decision-making for what they're going to do with their running backs. So, want to also let you know that this show is brought to you by the Deck Bar and Grill. Great food, great service in Isla de Sol. As my Puerto Rican friend Damaris Ortiz would say, to roll my tongue, we'll be out there again, having a sports talk show. Definitely Bucs-related content, trying to also look outside the box, if you will. Maybe some hockey talk, some baseball talk. Probably not, because Johnny Dean will have a convulsion if we did that. I know he would. We're talking about baseball. I hate baseball. My best Johnny Dean impression, knowing him the last 3 years. We don't talk baseball on this show, especially stadium situation. You get me riled up when we start talking stadium situation with the Tampa Bay Rays, and then it's over. We done a whole hour and a half on the stadium situation. Everybody hates me because we're on Bucs Report. Good, passionate conversation, but not necessarily the most, the best conversation to have on a Bucs Report platform. Let's just say that. I would rather have Humphreys than Edelman. Okay. Great. Johnny Dean says Trask played well against Bama. For a second or third round quarterback to sit, I'll take him. Boring ball. That's where you go. That's it right there. Boring ball. So yeah, man. I mean, I think that's where we're going tonight with that JJ Watt contract, Bucs related stuff, free agency, where are they going to go? Any concerns at this point? Let me read some more comments, and then I'm probably just going to end it for the night, guys. Once he gets rattled, he's done for the rest of the game. Again, I'm not ready to say that, but it is a factor, right? I mean, I think there's NFL scouts out there. What's the impact of not having the combine? I mean, there was talk today on Pro Football Talk that there may not be any OTAs. I mean, do you like that? I don't. I want to have OTAs. I want to have that opportunity. Veteran guys don't want to be there, cool, but I definitely want to get guys in there that, are first, second, third year players to get to know the offense. That gives them, and it's like BA said about a month ago. The veterans don't like it because the rookies can catch up in so many words. Paraphrasing. They got an advantage. Veterans don't like that. They want to keep their jobs. They don't want that development to go on. Isn't it amazing, though, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, that all we were talking about in the offseason not only was free agency moves and what would be the impact of the draft, but saying we weren't sure about Tristan Wirfs being an offensive tackle and how good he would be because the missed 400 reps and we had one sack given up. I mean, you would have to say in some cases, Wirfs was the best offensive lineman on this line, right? Being a rookie. That's not even having OTAs. That's not even having a full offseason, still being the best. And then you look on the other side of the ball, Antoine Winfield. I mean, how many blown coverages did that guy have this year? Not many. How many plays did he make this year? What a big-time difference he made in not having those OTAs and those 400 reps. So do you agree with the veteran players? We don't need the OTAs now? You don't need the offseason? You have a little bit of a training camp and then boom, you're into preseason? I mean, do you agree? 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. I mean, Tristan Wirfs is only going to get better with the necessary time. I mean, he's going to be even more comfortable in this offense if he wasn't already. How many times tonight have I said development? I mean, that's what it's all about. Antoine Winfield, how good is he going to be in his second year? With his dad being his mentor, playing in the NFL, how much of an advantage was that? Huh? I swear, I don't want to ever hear anybody get on this program and say Jason Light can't draft. Scoreboard. Devin White, superstar. Pro Bowler. Probably the best middle linebacker in the league, period. Not even a conversation at this point. Did you see what he did during the season and then in the postseason? Monster. Drafted 5th overall. Not bad. Antoine Winfield. Tristan Wirfs. We talked about Keyshawn Vaughn. Not much of an impact. You feel like the future is bright. Tyler Johnson, we saw him make some big catches. All those players didn't have that offseason to work. So did the veteran players have a point? Does BA have a point? That the veteran players don't want to see these guys develop. I mean, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. Leo word. You like that? I like it too. Thank you. Okay, Peter. Heard the Rays hold out in 10 minutes this year. I don't care about the Rays. No matter how free agency goes and draft, OL edge rusher, versatile player at 32. My favorite trade back for more picks. Certainly possible. Brady will be at the park on his golf cart running outside OTAs. Not a bad thing. In June, though, again, I want you to keep it in perspective. When everybody says, well, Brady, 43, he had all these weapons, playing through an injury. We don't even know when he injured the knee. We don't even know. We heard it was a clean out, but if it's a clean out, then why is it taking so long? Could be a lot more serious than people thought, right? Downplaying it. It's amazing, right? Teams don't downplay injuries. Hello? Of course they do. Hello? New England Patriots did that for years. So keep it in perspective. It's been a completely amazing season. I can't say it enough. But a 43-year-old quarterback playing through a major injury, possibly, still playing at a high level, amazing. Hey, the Buccaneers proved that this year you don't have to have much practice in the offseason to win a Super Bowl. I mean, just saying, put that in perspective. And then people will come on the program and say, wait, Jason Light sucks at drafting. Really? What? What are you smoking? The last 2 years, he's been amazing. Completely freaking amazing. David Moser, they can be said for every quarterback, Mahomes to Rodgers. Wirfs was amazing. Was he not? I mean, that was the first time we talked about it, like his big-time matchup versus Cameron Jordan, shut out. Of course, he had some help from Gronkowski. I mean, Gronkowski's a big-time priority. Make no mistake about that. That guy's a huge priority. He's going to come back, you assume, because he wants to play with Brady. He said it. But how important was he on this offensive line as an inline blocker to that line? Turn on the tape. Tape doesn't lie. Guy was like another tackle out there. It's a luxury to have him. So, Vita Vea scoreboard, exactly. All the Derwin James hates. Bucs is drafted well because two guys born two complete players. You got two players this year that came in and were a big part of this team. You had Devin White. I mean, you've had some moves here. Donovan Smith doesn't look so bad. Ali Marpet. Mike Evans. Hello. I get it. Again, we talk about it. I mean, I think this is where we are as society. There's so many people that focus on what you can't bring to the table instead of what you can. People, Bucs fans, they focus so much on Jason Light and his misses. The kicker wasn't good. Noah Spence wasn't good. You got rid of all these draft picks. It didn't work out. Then free agency wasn't great. Deshaun Jackson and Chris Baker. But look at what he's done in the free agency process. Look at what he's done to put together this team and the last couple of drafts. Let's focus on that. I think we got to do that. Now, that's not just a sports phrase. That's a society phrase. Societal, I guess. Would that be the right word? Focus on what you can do instead of what you can't. Give me that line of thinking all day long. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391 as we're coming up to the 11 o'clock hour here. We need as much preseason as possible. The teams have more injuries when players are expected to go full speed in game with no real practice. Yeah, that's my thing, right? I mean, how many soft tissue injuries did you have last year with no preseason games? I mean, can you imagine again if you have preseason, if you have the OTAs? I keep on going on and on about this, but it's clearly amazing at the contributions that the Bucs rookies did, that the second-year players did in a Devin White. Look at the development. So, yeah, I still think you need that. There'll be veteran players that will argue against it. But there were injuries last year. There were. Tyler is bringing his own swagger to the offense in the mold of a Godwin. You would hope so. Chill Will says, reports say Tom's injury was worse than everyone said. Exactly. 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions with an injured knee. We have no idea when he hurt it. No idea. Let's see here. Peter just got to say, I love your show. David, I appreciate that, my friend. Brady plays injured all the time. He never lets on. Well, he maybe does. But playing through a drastic knee injury, wouldn't that be some cause for concern? We don't know Wirf's limits yet. We know one sack given up in the season so far. Isn't that beautiful? By the way, Jason Light can't draft. Oh, yeah, he drafted Tristan Wirfs. Not a bad draft. Oh, they traded up one spot. Bucs fan. Oh, my God, he traded up one pick. We gave up picks for Gronk. We gave up picks for Wirfs. How did that work out? Great. That's why they get paid the big-time money. I'm not saying they're always right, but that's the reason why they get the big mucho dinero, if you will. Brian says, damn, I got disconnected. Do you think Edelman is a possibility? A lot of speculation is he's getting released. I think it's certainly a possibility, and I think, again, the word familiarity, if I said that right, comes to mind. Being familiar with somebody. J.J. Watt was familiar with the Arizona Cardinals because of DeAndre Hopkins, his former teammate, and, of course, Vance Joseph working with him and the Houston Texans. The reason why you connect A to B is because Edelman has had some great games with Tom Brady, a great career with the Tom Brady. Does he work in this offense? Well, if you lose a Chris Godwin, then who do you have? You have a Tyler Johnson, you have an Antonio Brown, you have a Scotty Miller. Do you need an Edelman? I'm not sure, because you take away from those reps from those other players. But I guess, you can make it work. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much Edelman has left. Johnny Dean mentioned it, concussions. So I've heard the same thing. We'll have to see it play out. Amazing what a team can do with coaching that actually develops their players. There you go. Bingo. Right there. Comment of the night. Gronk was so underrated as a contributor. He kept Brady upright and then makes biggest plays in the biggest games. I mean, 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, Gronk's done. Yeah, he's washed up. He doesn't catch touchdowns anymore. He doesn't do anything with pass catching. Let's go out to the live here. Sean says, yo, my guy PB, what's up? What's going on, buddy? Yaj says this is going to be very interesting offseason with the cap. Let's go Bucs. Do you see Sue coming back? We answered that. I definitely think he's going to be coming back. Let's see. Could see the 5th-year option not exercised for OJ. I believe OJ is still under contract, but he definitely counts about $6 million. So again, a lot of people equate, because he's coming off an injury, maybe he could be a cap casualty or be traded. We were talking about it last year. We were also talking about Brait. I'm not going to assume anything at this point, because the problem with assuming is that when you assume it, then basically, what's it start with? It starts with ass. So I'm not going to be an ass in this situation. A lot of people thought that Cameron Brait was done. A lot of people thought, again, OJ was done. The problem with getting rid of one of those guys is that OJ can't stay healthy consistently, and he's got so much potential. And Cameron Brait, even though he cost a lot of money, he's not the best blocker. But when you have Gronk being a blocker, wasn't he one of the go-to guys when OJ gets hurt? So basically how it comes down to it is, if you get rid of a Brait and you go with an OJ because he has the potential, he also has the potential to get hurt. So you lose OJ, you have Gronk, and what else? Tanner Hudson? So that's the reason why you could keep both of those guys around, because of just that factor. Hope that answers your question. Yes, thank you, someone who understands the financial part of the game. Thank you, Evan. Look up Godwin and Shaq, major priorities. Yash says, yes, bring in Kyle Trask. Let's go Gators. I'm not a Gator fan. I guess I'll fire the cannons. Let's see. Sean says Mac Jones looks like a possibility. Every Monday is a victory Monday. We are the Super Bowl champions. Fire those cannons. And we'll go ahead and do the Rick Flair. There we go. Good stuff there. Watching the game again. I think a lot of people, have you gotten tired of watching that game? I have not. I love to watch the highlights, see it. It's always good. LVD is a beast. He is a real leader, heart and soul of this defense. Let Brady cook. And we'll read the rest of these comments, and then we'll read this last comment, and then we'll get out of here for the night. I believe we pick up Humphrey. Certainly anything is a possibility, of course, if you lose Godwin. Thanks to our newest writer here, Mr. Evan Winter. We'll be back on Friday night. Of course, definitely tune in on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Yours truly, most likely, will be making an appearance, but also being a producer for the newest show here with my professional handicapper, Mr. Harry the Greek. And, of course, Best of the Bay, Tampa Bay, Ray Kennedy at 9 o'clock. Of course, if anything breaks here, we'll have it live here on Bucs Report and, of course, on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, brought to you by Advanced Auto Parts. For all your auto parts needs, it's Advanced Auto Parts. So, early on this, well, I guess it's not early, but it's almost to Tuesday morning. Once again, let's just go ahead and clarify it. Nothing has changed ever since this show started. Your Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still world champions. That will be Super Bowl champions, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs. Do 3 things for me on this Monday night, Tuesday morning. You ready? Write them down. There's a quiz on Friday night. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, and I'll see you on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television live here on Bucs Report. Have a great night.